It's deadline day in baseball, and the Jays are active, and there could be more moves on the way. NBA's offseason has been quiet, so let's spice it up and figure out who is the best of the best. The USA struggles at the Women's World Cup, but you would never know after their post-match performance. And at 0-21 at home, the Elks have set a new mark for futility, but that's nothing compared to stay tuned. It's the Homestand Show, and it starts right now. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Homestand Show, live on the Homestand YouTube channel. Justin Pooni, James Sharman, one notable admission today, one Albert Vartanian.
And one buckle up missing from the opener. You couldn't do it?
I couldn't do the buckle up.
Come
I can't. Look, I'm not trying to be Albert Vartanian in the host chair. I'm hosting. It's going to be a new flavor, new thing. Speaking of flavor, Albert's going to get a tan, try some new flavors out of Mexico maybe. He's in Mexico, right?
I think so, yeah. We're going to hear all about it like over and over again.
He did message me saying he was going to send us some pictures of him doing yoga on the beach in the morning. I said, I don't think the viewers on YouTube want to see all of that. But James, bigger than Albert's vacation to Mexico. It's baseball's trade deadline today. Yes, the MLB Trade Deadline is at 6 p.m. Eastern today. And we've got some moves already. First things first, one of the biggest name, probably the biggest name on the market, has coming off the board. That's Justin Verlander is gone back to the Houston Astros from the New York Mets. The Astros traded their best prospect, Logan Gilbert, outfielder, to New York for Justin Verlander, who spent 5 seasons in Houston, 2 World Series, won an AL Cy Young. Major move. The Astros are, of course, in a fight for the division with their Texas neighbors, the Texas Rangers, looking to reclaim another World Series title. Then the Toronto Blue Jays, of course, near and dear to all of our hearts, maybe, acquired Paul DeJong from the St. Louis Cardinals. They traded low A and high A prospect pitcher Matt Svensson, hopefully I'm pronouncing that. I never heard of the guy.
It doesn't matter.
I never heard of him until right now. To St. Louis for shortstop DeJong, who had 13 home runs, 32 RBI, batting .233. This, of course, is in the wake of Bo Bichette getting injured last night with some right knee soreness. But according to reports, shouldn't be out for too long.
Yeah.
Nothing
John
really
Heyman's
concrete,
saying that.
but they're saying he'll be here. Shouldn't be okay. James, let me start off with you. We also have producer Sean joining us as well for this block. What were your immediate thoughts on the Verlander stuff and, of course, what the Blue Jays have done?
My first thoughts on the Verlander stuff was that let's see what Sean thinks about this, because he knows way more than I do about Verlander. But Lizzie goes back to familiarity, and they know who he is. You just wonder what has gone wrong with the Mets. I know the Braves are obviously on different level this year, but the Mets invested so much money in their pitching staff, and it's just all falling apart.
It looks sometimes money doesn't buy you happiness, right? It looks like for Stephen Cohen, after all that money, of course, Max Scherzer just got traded on the weekend, and now Verlander gets dealt. The Mets are in full tank mode. They're trying to wipe the financial ramifications of those pitchers off the payroll sheet, and the Houston Astros get a guy that you mentioned helped win them 2 World Series titles and an AL Cy Young award. Sean, if you were there, what were your thoughts on the Verlander deal?
Hey, I am here.
Hey,
thank you. Let me just figure out how to get rid of this thing here. All right. Cool. Back in the producer's chair for the first time in a while. So
it's been a minute.
It has been a minute. Really intrigued by the Verlander deal. I mean, he wanted to remain a Met. He said that a few weeks ago. But then, even when the Mets weren't currently in it, I think they're 6 games back of the wild card right now. They're never going to catch the Braves for the division. But then after Scherzer got traded, he was like, yeah, well, I guess if we're not going for it, then yeah, sure, get me out of here. I'm 41 years old, and I want to win another ring. And if you're not going to let me do it here, then get me out of here. So going to the Astros, who were World Series favorites to start the year and have been really good since a couple of key players have come back from the injured reserve. We've got Jose Altuve and Yordan Alvarez back, and now they add a pitcher like Verlander is just great for them. Verlander had a slow start to the season, coming off a back injury at the beginning of the year, but looking good now. I mean, a guy that can eat innings, a guy that is striking out less batters, but I mean, he can still go 7, 8, and I think his last 3 starts, he's only given up 2 earned runs combined. So, really love this deal for the Astros, and a question that I would love Albert to be here for, because he's a big fan of this player. But maybe they're doing this and clearing the books and trying to make way for Shohei Ohtani.
Well, Stephen Cohen's got some big pockets, right? So he can definitely afford a $600 million contract for Shohei.
Are the Astros like the new Yankees in some regards, in that this machine that gets the big players, the big money, dominant, hated by everyone?
Could be. I mean, they've been the most successful team in baseball for the last half decade or decade, right? Look, Verlander, he hasn't had a bad year. 6-5 this season with the Mets, 3.15 ERA, 94 innings pitched. So look, he's done well. He's a guy who's as we know in baseball, pitching and having the healthy arms is the most important thing, I think, to win playoff baseball.
Is he still with Kate Upton?
Yes, he is.
He's still.
So Kate Upton now.
It's been a few years now.
I don't know if Kate Upton's going to make the move back with him to Houston, or she's going to stay in New York for, of course, her career. But he's back in a comfortable spot in Houston. I think. Look,
has she still got a career? I haven't heard of her.
I
for
don't
a
know.
while. It's been some time.
I would think so. I would assume she's.
You're the pop culture guy. You should.
I mean, if you're Kate Upton, you should have a career anywhere. Well, anyway,
I hope so.
The Instagram deals.
Always welcome here at Homestand.
Hey, Kate Upton, if you want to join us, again, we have an open chair. Albert is on vacation. I'm sure if you filled in for Albert Vartanian, the world would not, push back on that at all.
The world would be a better place, I'd say.
Definitely.
Our world, anyway.
Let's talk about the Toronto Blue Jays, because that is what the brass tacks and people want to hear about, of course, in Toronto. So, some good news about Bichette. Again, not too long. We don't know what that means. Is that 1 week? Is that 2 weeks? Is that 1 day, 1 game?
And again, not confirmed by the club.
Not confirmed by anybody.
Heyman's, who's pretty good.
He's one of the most well-connected guys in baseball. Do you think that with the De Jong acquisition now and a healthy Bichette, that the Jays are now in a much better place than they were yesterday?
Much better place? I'm not sure. I mean, listen, I'll be honest with you. I don't know much about Paul de Jong. He's got a good glove. We know that.
Yeah.
Very good glove. One of the best in the league, in baseball. But the bat hasn't been great since coming into the league back in 2017 when he was runner-up for Rookie of the Year. Signed a big contract, and just the bat hasn't happened for him.
Right.
I think he's decent against lefties this season, but overall, it's you can't replace Bo.
No.
Simple as that, right?
No.
So you have a bit of depth here, I suppose. But there isn't that much depth in the Jays infield.
No, and I think that was the biggest thing that especially Sean mentioned it yesterday on the show, is that you need a guy who can come in and can eat up at bats away from Santiago Espinal and Cavan Biggio, who, let's face it, Cavan Biggio, I made a joke yesterday saying that can Cavan Biggio remain above 100 batting average on the season? And that's a struggle, right?
Is it time at what point do you say it?
You just got to give up on him.
Enough.
I think you just got to give up. But then again,
his name wasn't Biggio. I'm sure he's gone by now.
This team has such a lack of depth that they need him to play. They need Espinal to play on a game-to-game basis. And I think when you have Bichette back in the lineup, whenever that is, right, and you have de Jong, and yes, he's only batting, 233, 13 home runs, 32 RBI. Not world-breaking numbers, but better than what Santiago Espinal and Cavan Biggio have right now. They'd have to give up a prospect pitcher again. Not a huge thing, because nobody's really heard of this guy before.
Although when Sean first saw the trade come down, he goes, Eric Swanson, and he freaked out, but it was Matt Svensson.
Now, also, I should say this for everybody: the Jays are also apparently the top candidates to land a former Jay in Teoscar Hernandez, of course, from the Seattle Mariners, a right-handed bat, which they need desperately. Teo, of course, has a 238 average, 16 home runs, and 59 RBI. A guy who was well loved in the clubhouse for years here. So, Sharms, let me ask you this: if they do end up getting Teoscar back, and then with the acquisition of de Jong, and of course Jordan Hicks and the other moves that they made, the Jays now are going to be, would you say they're now pushing for the top wildcard spot, or is there still, with the moves the Astros have made, is there a gap between those teams?
That's a good question. I mean, they're still chasing the division. It's not that far removed from the All-Star break, and they've played well since then.
Yes.
And they said then, listen, we're going for the division. So it's still lots of games left. It's an interesting move if this happens, and they are reportedly the front runners. His numbers are down this year compared to previous years, but he's still driving in runs. You wonder where he fits. Is he more DH? He hasn't played much left field this year, so it's a good one. I mean, listen, I think Jays fans would love it. And if you can say you bring in DeYoung, you bring in Teoscar Hernandez, you bring in Jordan Hicks, that's a pretty good deadline, I think. And looking at it as a whole package, right? So forget Hernandez right now because it hasn't happened. But if you we'll get Sean on here. Sean, if you told Jays fans before the deadline came around that they acquired Paul DeYoung, Jordan Hicks, Genesis Cabrera, and cash.
Don't forget the cash.
For Adam Kloffenstein, Sam Roberts, Sammy Hernandez, and Matt Swanson, I think you'd probably say it's good business, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I'm happy with the results here. I mean, and they're still not done. I mean, like you said, they're one of the front runners for Teoscar Hernandez, but I believe some sources said out there that about 12 or 13 teams are out there looking for a Teoscar Hernandez, like you said, an elite guy when it comes to driving runs in. I'd be happy, James. I think we've seen it even in the short appearances from Genesis Cabrera that he's been solid so far as an addition for the Jays. And Paul DeYoung, like Justin was saying, I think it's just almost like a purely defensive move that I think might have happened even if Bichette didn't get hurt. I mean, Bichette will be out maybe for a couple weeks. I mean, that's what it's looking like based on a couple of tweets I've seen, but nothing official from anything out there that I've also seen. So, yeah, I mean, is Paul DeYoung, can somebody who batted like 157 last year and before that it wasn't as good either, another poor season the year before that, but he's batting 233 this year, like Justin alluded to. I mean, it's an upgrade from Kevin Biggio, but you can also see where the downside is there too. I mean, somebody who could strike out a lot. But yeah, just an excellent defender who the Jays are the worst at the second base position. Paul DeYoung doesn't play a lot of second base, so I mean, if that's what the plan is when Bo's healthy, then that's a good move. If he can play a good second base, I looked over the past few seasons. He only had he only played one game there, and he split time, so it might have been like a substitution midway through the game. So, but somebody that is that good at shortstop can probably play a good second base too. I mean, we'll just have to wait and see what the plan is, and hopefully Bichette's not out too long.
These left side of infield in that case defensively, right?
Look, I also think another positive for the Jays is this. When you look at the American League East and the moves that were made, the Jays were the most active team and they brought in the most amount of pieces. So I think that's a victory for the Toronto Blue Jays, especially when the Red Sox are 2.5 games behind them in the wild card. The Yankees are 3.5 games back. So look, you added pieces. We'll see what the Yankees and the Red Sox do in the next, less than 3 hours till the deadline. I think the Toronto Blue Jays have put themselves in a better position. They acquired bullpen relief. They acquired another batter. They might acquire another bat, right? So I think the Toronto Blue Jays are in good shape. But if Bo Bichette's out for a couple weeks, that might be a really big deterrent because even if it's just 2 weeks, we'll say, right? Who are they playing all this week? American League East opponents.
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't get off to a good start yesterday with a loss to the Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah, and Red Sox coming up this weekend, right? So, yeah, it's a big time. I mean, listen, this isn't Tulowitzki, it's not David Price, it's not like that, which is still one of probably the greatest couple of weeks around the trade deadline in Blue Jays history, going way back to even when they won the World Series, of course. But this solidifies some depth issues for them. The bullpen's been great, let's be honest, this year, and you add in Hicks, it's even better now as well. Hopefully Romano gets back. That's a big question mark, obviously. If he can get back to where he was when he's healthy again, that's a nice 1-2 punch there. So I think Jays fans should be pretty happy. They spent some money here, and listen, they haven't got the big bat just yet, and it's going to be an interesting off-season with I think about $70 million coming off the books or thereabouts probably this off-season. But
if Albert Vartanian is running the Blue Jays, $60 million of that or whatever is going to be going to Mr. Shohei Ohtani. But I think when you look at the Jays and you look at where they're currently sitting, the Rays are 5 games up for the first wildcard spot. The Astros are 1 game up, but we just talked about how they got Verlander. I think if I'm the Jays and how it's currently set up, it's not looking that good because look, you're gonna have to probably play I think how that works. They're gonna play the Astros in the wild card round, right? So
you don't want that, do you?
And then you probably got to go to Houston as well. So I know like George Springer has a lot of experience in playoff baseball, but going to Houston. And to play the Astros there with a guy like Justin Verlander on the mound, we know how good the Astros are in playoff baseball. That's tough. But if somehow the Astros can catch Texas and Texas slides down, And then you're looking kind of pretty. I just don't like the Jays' chances to go to Tampa or to go to Houston to win a wild card game. I think they really, really need to try to get a home playoff date. But we did see how that worked out last year.
Ifs, ands, and buts, There's still lots of baseball between now and then. In the short term, listen, come on, Teoscar Hernandez. Fans would love it.
I think it would be
good feel in the clubhouse.
If they do get Teoscar Hernandez back, I think it would help them on the field, but I think even bigger would help them off and in the clubhouse. We've seen, some of the morale on the clubhouse. We saw Matt Chapman get it with John Schneider. He was such a lovable figure, and it was kind of a shock to see him get dealt in the offseason. Something like that, bring a lovable guy back who can kind of connect with everybody, might be exactly what this team needs.
I know they got Swanson in the trade in the summer, which turned out pretpretty good, but is this also an acknowledgement that you kind of made a mistake in the first place? Because the Bats have not done what they should have done.
No, and we've seen that this year. Like if you look at the Jays, back to what you talked about, the Price Tulowitzki days or the Batista Donaldson days with Encarnacion, the Bats were always what led and drove this team, right?
Yeah.
This year it's the pitching, right? And because they had to lose so much depth from their lineup, and I think bringing him back, it would be a bit of buyer's remorse, but it would also help out so much on the field, but most importantly, I think off the field as well, because he was such a leader in that clubhouse.
Yeah, you're right. I do like those stories sometimes of the old guys coming back to the team, the guys that were popular and successful, and they return. Is there an athlete, current athlete, an active athlete that you'd love to see return to one of your favorite teams? Does that stand out to you?
Who would I want to see come back to the Canucks, former Canuck? Can I say none of that?
It's been a rough period for you.
You know what? I would love to see Jared McCann. The Canucks, of course, drafted Jared McCann. Yeah. Now he's a 40-goal scorer with the Kraken. I would love to have seen him grow in Vancouver. Of course, they traded him for Eric Goodbranson, not one of Jim Benning's best moves. But I think that right there probably would have been the most move. I would like to see what would have happened. Now, who knows if he would have developed.
It's kind of sad, right? I mean, listen, nothing is. Jared McCann's coming off a fantastic season, a really good player. But if that's the guy you've picked out of thin air.
I'm trying to think that the Canucks have been so bad for so long.
See, I would love, and this is controversial because he was dealt for obvious reasons at the time. I'd love to see Nazem Kadri come back to the Leafs.
Yeah.
When he left, they lost some identity, the bite.
Yeah.
And I think he'd look great right now.
Well, he's exactly the type of guy that Brad Treliving would love wanted. Of course, Brad Treliving signed him last year to that big contract in Calgary. But let's do some basketball talk, James.
Okay.
Of course, it's very slow. I know you love talking about basketball. I know you love talking about the NBA.
I'm learning through you guys.
We're learning, right?
I am.
So it's kind of quiet right now in the NBA. And normally the NBA is filled with drama, news, rumors, all that fun stuff. But our Noor Zainab decided to list her top 10 players in the NBA. And I have some rebuttals for it, but we're going to see this piece first that she put together.
We are at the halfway point of the offseason, which is the perfect time to reminisce the year that was through its best players. Before I begin, though, honorable mention to Kawhi Leonard. There's nothing wrong with him. I just wish he was on this list. Anyway, let's start with number 10. At number 10, I've got Kevin Durant. You could look at this two ways. One of the best NBA players in the world is number 10 on this list, or despite being involved with team drama for the last 2-3 years, he's still top 10 in the league? No wrong answers here. At number 9, I have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Once the young rising stars in OKC form themselves into all-star, Shai will be their MVP. He averaged 31 points on 51% shooting last year. That means 1 out of every 2 shots was going in. Talk about efficiency. At number 8, I've got Devin Booker. You probably remember him torching teams in the playoffs, averaging a league-best 33.7 points on 59% shooting. His exit in the semifinals for the second year in a row is why he's at number 8, but expect this to move up with Kevin Durant next season. At number 7, I have Luka Doncic. This is the name you're going to see on top 10 lists for ages to come, so familiarize yourself. He dropped 50 or more points 4 times last season. One of them saw him score 60 points and 21 rebounds. Once Mark Cuban fixes the roster, Luka could be headlining the main stage. At number 6, I have LeBron James. The sinking ship steadied itself after the trade deadline, and as a result, LeBron James averaged 29 points. His unwillingness to let Father Time step in is the reason why the Lakers were in the conference finals. At At number 5, Steph Curry. This was Steph Curry's third best scoring season. The 35-year-old averaged 29 points and went 43% from three while holding an effective field goal percentage of 61%. His playoff goals this year are why he's number 5 on this list, but that's the Western Conference for you. At number 4, Jason Tatum. Yes, his playoff tenure hasn't been the easiest, but he is an offensive force for the Celtics. He averaged 30 points and almost 9 rebounds on 47% shooting, consistently making the Celtics contenders. Plus, he's only 25. At number 3, Joel Embiid. A player that needs to keep his knees ready for the playoffs, but he's still a regular season nightmare. Having a lack of a cast around shows that Embiid's body has been torn through once the postseason comes around, but his force is undeniable. At number 2, Giannis Antetokounmpo. If the season was just until April, Giannis would be the undisputed king. His injuries killed any chances the Bucks had of winning an NBA title, but that goes to show how important he is to his team. At number 1, Nikola Jokic, the man who needs no introduction, the man who could have been the back-to-back MVP, and the man who won the championship. Best player in the regular season, best player in the playoffs, part of the best team in the West. That's a no-brainer.
Okay. I was kind of surprised by your
First of all,
list.
you didn't tee me up. I'm Noor Zainab. How are you guys?
Yeah,
I
Nice
said
to see you.
they
Thank
know
you so much,
they
Thanks
they
for
know
having
who
me,
you
James.
are. I
Thank
said
you.
before you were in the studio, I teed it up saying that you put this piece together, so one could have assumed that you were going to be on camera right after.
Already, yeah, just going at it.
Yeah,
I think.
absolutely, because we have some issues with this list. At least I do. At least I do. So if you didn't catch it, if we can throw up the Noor's list right now, and I'll run through it quickly for all of you guys that probably were paying attention or just couldn't, fathom it. Nikola Jokic, number 1, NBA champion and Finals MVP.
It hasn't even been a minute.
Giannis 2,
I'm trying to
Embiid
get warmed
3,
up.
Tatum 4, Curry 5, LeBron 6, Doncic 7, Booker 8, Shea 9, KD 10.
I
Now,
think that's a masterpiece.
now, me being the ultimate petty person I am, when I got word that you were going to be putting together a top 10 list, I was like, you know what? I can't let her get away with this. So I made my own list, which is the right list. We'll show it to all you guys. So I had the one, the only Giannis Antetokounmpo number 1, Steph Curry number 2, Nikola Jokic number 3, Embiid number 4, Doncic 5, Tatum 6, the King LeBron James number 7, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander number 8, Devin Booker 9, and Kevin Durant number 10. So we had all the same players, just I organized them in the correct order as they should be.
And this is based on just last season, right?
It's based on what we
the
saw.
playoffs
What we
as
saw
well.
last
Yeah,
year.
sure.
Yeah.
The full year of the playoffs, which is why I'm very surprised at your list, and which is why
Why?
I don't think you understood the concept of what this list is going to be about, because it's about winning. So why do you have
Okay.
Giannis as the first guy?
'Cause if you
what
did-
did Giannis
if you-
win?
If he got hurt in the
was
first
out.
round.
Yeah, exactly.
He had
He
the-
was out in the first round after being
But
the
that's
best
injury
team
related.
in the
That's
league.
injury
though.
related.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. But think about this.
It
If you did a
doesn't
poll
matter.
across anybody in the NBA circles, across sports in general, if they had one basketball player to pick in like a fantasy draft, number 1 overall, it would be Giannis
Of course. Well,
because
Giannis-
he controls the game from both sides of the floor. Nikola Jokic is great, averages a triple-double almost every season of late. But what does he do in the defensive end? Not as much as Giannis does. And I
But
think
what
that's...
does Giannis do when it comes to playmaking the way that Nikola Jokic does? They both have their
Giannis
own.
had 6 assists.
Yeah, but Nikola Jokic is the passing big guy. He's the king. He's going to have to save his efforts when it comes to the offensive side because he's okay in the defensive
I
end.
don't
He's got
know.
his team taking care of him. Giannis has to be the whole team. But
Exactly.
Nikola
So that's why he
Jokic-
should be number 1 if Giannis has to be the whole
but then
team.
he wasn't. He wasn't as
He
a
was
problem.
hurt. And you
It
saw
doesn't-
Miami
you,
lost in the
Justin,
first
you
round.
can't factor in injuries right now. It's about what happened, who won, who did what. Nikola Jokic was healthy throughout the entire season, took his team, made them something, and not just the season, but also in the playoffs, and then ended up winning that. Honestly, he should have been the back-to-back MVP.
No.
The first to do it 3 times in a row. Absolutely. Embiid got it. You had Embiid at 4. I have Embiid at 3.
Yes.
I think it could have gone either way. Having Steph Curry though as number 2 is where I have the biggest beef
Why?
with you, because what does Steph Curry do?
Steph Curry averages 30
What did the
points.
Warriors
He got a
do?
hole in one in fairness. Like
He got a
just
hole in one
2
in
weeks
golf.
ago.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
Okay, you know what? Maybe he should pivot then if that's the case, because he didn't do anything for the NBA.
What do you mean? He had averaged 30, shot 50%.
It's not okay, but that's just Steph Curry alone. If you look at Steph Curry around the other players that are next to him, as we mentioned with Nikola Jokic, Giannis, Joel Embiid, Jason Tatum, all these guys, they should be rightfully ahead of him because
Jason Tatum ahead of Steph?
Where were the Celtics in the playoffs?
They made it one round further.
They made it to the Eastern Conference Finals.
They should have lost to Philly. They should have lost to Philly.
But they didn't.
Because if James Harden and Joel Embiid had any spine or backbone, they would have performed in the playoffs, right? But because of the Doc Rivers and his stupidity as a coach, Joel Embiid and James Harden's lack of ability.
Announcer, respect him.
What?
Doc Rivers, your next announcer.
Yeah,
respect him.
Put me to sleep.
The actual official Embiid was the MVP of the season.
Of the regular season.
And regular. So you're just factoring a lot. You're weighting the playoffs here a lot.
Yes.
You have to wait. I think in the NBA, the playoffs was what matters the most. Nobody cares about the regular season.
I don't think you followed that though. Did you follow that? Because
I did. I think Giannis is head and shoulders above the rest. That regardless if they got bounced.
Giannis was out in the first round. What are you talking about? Doesn't matter.
He was hurt.
In fairness, no, you did have Giannis as number 2.
Yeah, well, he's great. No, he's
close.
great. He's super great. He's close enough. But then again, you got to give it to the guy who won it.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Who was healthy the whole time.
Let me ask you this. If Giannis was healthy, right? Did the Bucks beat the Heat in round 1?
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
But he wasn't, though.
But he wasn't healthy. That's the whole point.
I'm just saying, look.
You're going off of
if you're an alien
hyperboles.
coming, and one day we'll talk about UFOs and aliens in this show.
We've been talking about aliens.
They're on their way, by the way. If you came down for the first time, the first NBA season you ever saw was this past season, there's no baggage in previous seasons. That's who you're looking at, because Giannis is, right now feeding off what he's accomplished in the past, right? And fair enough, he might well win it next year.
Yep.
But I get what Noor is saying here. At the same time, you guys always battle and fight, right? But
it's pretty
not one
close.
of you have one player outside the top 10 here. You have the same lists.
I was gonna add.
You really do.
I really want to add Damian Lillard to my top 10, but
that's why I think what we should do is we should go back and compare it like side by side. Okay, so you have my 10 is Kevin Durant. Your
Let's
number
put
10.
Noor's 10 back up on the screen again while she goes through it.
Okay. So
Sean can make it with his computer and stuff. Can make it all on the same screen, surely.
Yeah, we could figure that out at some point too. All right, so my
maybe
number.
sometime, James. Maybe sometime.
So my number 10 is Kevin Durant. Your number 10's.
My number 10 is Kevin Durant.
Okay, so we agreed on that.
Yep.
We agreed on that because we realized that Kevin Durant was great for his team, but he wasn't enough. He's moving
Didn't play
around.
enough.
Exactly. Number 9, I have Shea.
I have Devin Booker.
Okay. Why?
Because Devin Booker got hurt, didn't play enough in the regular season, and I think Shea Gilgeous-Alexander did more for his team to win this season. That's why I see
that. I have them swap because 8 for me is Devin Booker, 9 is Shea. But I gave 8 to Devin because agreed, yes, the team itself failed the expectations once again in the same old-fashioned way as it did last year. But he did lead the league when it came to offensive performance in the playoffs. But Devin Booker, so you have to give him some level of flowers for that. And they had no bench. They didn't have much going for them either. So they had people injured.
9 or 8.
They still
you both respect the guy.
They still don't have a bench.
Exactly.
Actually, the Suns bench looks decent.
No, they look good. Suns made pretty decent.
Your bottom 3, not the same order, but you got the same players.
Exactly. I think is our top 3. I think there's this. No, actually, you screwed up the top 3. Yeah.
I screwed up the top 3. My top 3 is unanimous. Giannis, Steph, Jokic. That's the 3 best players in basketball right now. There's no question about
Steph, Jokic.
Yeah, my top 3 players are Giannis, Steph, Jokic.
Yeah, mine are Jokic, Giannis, and Joel. What's crazy because
that's surprising because you hate Joel Embiid. I'm surprised you actually respected him enough to put him in your top 3 because you always make fun of Joel Embiid and his stomach issues, the fact that he never plays.
Yeah, you should take a Tums or something.
He eats too much. He's got to lay off the burgers.
I never said, Justin, I don't fat shame. You fat shame.
We'll pull the footage.
I've never fat shamed anybody
we'll pull
in
the
my
clip.
life.
There's times where you've said
no,
that
but I think he's I clearly gave him respect. He's number 3. I gave him respect because he's a great player. And he's great also because he handles his team. He's the anchor of his entire team. The 76ers are not built to be a great team right now either. You have James Harden, absolutely, but James Harden has clearly pivoted to becoming more of a facilitator. Yes. He's not an offensive guy that he used to be beforehand. Maxey, as great as he is, the potential is skyrocket, but he's still very young. So all the pressure is on Joel Embiid, but it also goes to show that they need him to be healthy. So he's a pretty big part of what this team's success should look like. So him being injured, I think, is the reason why.
I do want to say this, though. You put Jason Tatum ahead of Steph Curry. That was blasphemy to me.
You're insane. Who went further in the playoffs?
That doesn't matter though. But
Yes, it did.
Steph
Are we
was,
going down this
Steph
route
was
again?
playing
The
with
whole
a guy.
playoff versus. Listen, let me ask you this question, right? You both obviously follow the Raptors extremely closely. Who is the nearest Raptor to this list, and where is he?
Pascal Siakam.
Okay.
And honestly, on a good day, Pascal, in a good week, a good month, he
Tread
could
carefully
be
about what you say here.
No, listen to me. Good. He's won, player of the week, player of the month
Anybody
before.
can win player of the week.
Okay, player
Anybody
of the
can
month.
have a good week.
Doesn't matter. I said a month.
Anybody
I
can have
could
a good
see
month.
him being top 15 in the Eastern Conference.
In the Eastern Conference,
Okay,
okay.
overall.
Not in the NBA. Top 15 just in the
We're
East.
talking top 30 overall, top 40,
Yeah, top
top
20.
50, top 20.
Top 25 overall, I
I
would
think
say, yeah. Top 25.
30 around
But he
there.
had a great season last year too. Like Pascal's season was fantastic offensively. He was setting records for the first time in his career last year as well. But it's just a matter of the problem with this list is, in my opinion, I don't know, Justin, did not follow the rules. But what you do with your list is the winning has to factor in.
Of course winning factors in.
For Pascal Siakam, but that again goes to show that as great as Pascal Siakam is, he's not good enough to lead his team.
Yeah, we know that.
So that
That's obvious.
shows you. Okay, Justin, that's not the whole point.
So leadership is a component.
No, I
there
think
as
in
well.
the NBA, right, when you look at the top 10, we have all the same players, right? There's something that each one of them have done. They've been the best players on a team that have gone to the finals. Well, minus Embiid and Doncic, but they've been the best players on teams that have, and Shea, but they've been the best players on their teams that have led to, something of some sorts. Look, Shea carried a young Oklahoma City Thunder squad to a play-in berth. The Oklahoma City Thunder were expected to be one of the worst teams in the NBA. They made the play-in. Right, Devin Booker led the Suns to the finals a couple years ago. They lost to Giannis. Right, Durant's done it before. Steph, of course, has one of the best dynasties we've seen of all time. Jokic finally did something in the playoffs this year. Embiid sucks in the playoffs, but in the regular season he's been a beast. Doncic, we know, took the Mavs to the Western Conference Finals the year previous. Tatum's done his thing. We know LeBron. We don't have to say anything about LeBron. We know what LeBron does.
I know what's happening here. I know exactly what's happening here, actually. You know what? Justin picks the team based off of the best player. The player based off of like who he thinks gets the most amount of offense, all that stuff going for him. I look at it and how they contribute to winning. And we know that about Justin. Justin picked Charles Barkley. He did not pick Robert
just your
Horry.
excuse
But
to come back
He'd
to
rather
no.
win a score and tell than an NBA
Hold
championship.
Exactly. So he's valuing how much Steph Curry put up offensively,
Steph Curry's
but
won
not
four titles.
Okay, Justin, we're not going back in time talking about this past year.
Last season.
Literally the
He
past.
just won the NBA championships the year before.
Okay,
last
but
season.
still the season before.
He had to
Honestly,
deal with Jordan
you're
Poole.
killing your argument right now. It was the year before, not
That's
last
recency
year.
bias. You're looking through it like just.
But
like,
it
This
is-
is all it's
but that's
about
the
this
list, though.
year.
It's the best.
It just
10
comes down to
last
Justin not understanding the assignment.
That's exactly. Thank
That's
you
all
so
it is.
much.
And
Thank you.
Sounds
and I
like
wish this was a thing that was a one-time thing, but it's
Look,
a common theme,
I
and
go
that's
to
why
the
you're
beat
not
of my
going to win
own drum.
Employee of the Month, Employee of the
I
Week.
don't need employee of the month. Okay, I know what I bring to the table.
He's
No,
a
hey,
one person kind of guy. We know this about Justin.
you're great, Justin.
I travel to the beat of my own drum. Okay, I do what I want when I want, and this list right here is the best. We're gonna put both these lists up on social media, and we're gonna ask the people
Do you
what
really
they
I
think.
think
want
it's
to
funny
be
that they're just
cancelled?
scrapping A. Sean because they're the same
Yeah.
lists.
Yeah,
No,
very,
they're the same.
They're
They're
the
the
same
same
list.
players. They're just
Yeah.
ranked
Pretty
the
much
right
exactly
one.
the same
I
list.
would
is
I
ranked
would
the
have liked
right
to see
way.
a little differences, but hey, that's their list, and that's great. I think that's great. They always have more in common than they think they
Yes,
do, James.
exactly.
The reason I did break in, I did want
Stop
to
fighting,
rag
Mom and
Justin
Dad.
just a little bit. We've got breaking news in Major League Baseball. The Tigers are close to trading Michael Lorenzen to the Phillies, so that looks like it's
Damn,
pretty
big
much
news.
done. So that's another pitcher off the market for the trade deadline.
Well,
today.
that's what it is on deadline day in baseball. You never know what producer Sean McCormick is going to bust through your screen and break a trade for you. He's like our very own Bob Nightingale,
Oh, yeah, my
John
my
Heyman.
sources,
He is.
my
Woj?
sources, yeah.
Yeah.
My
He's
sources-
He's well connected on his
He
Twitter,
is.
on his X.
My
On
sources
X.
Twitter.
But Noor's going to stick around. James is going to stick around. We're going to talk some footy, some major losing streaks, and whoever else we think about. You know what it is? The Homestand Show. Albert's not here. It's a lot more free flowing.
nice, isn't it,
It's
without
nice.
Albert?
There's no pressure. He's not sweating buckets in here.
He
right?
did understand the assignment, though. So
I-
he
look,
did
he would've
miss
read the
the
assignment.
Forget
structure.
the
Yeah. He
assignment,
would have
look.
read it, would have taken the time to understand it, would have
Okay.
come back with some questions, maybe some ideas as well, some
Right.
tweaks, and you just took it and you
Like
made
I
it your
said,
own. So
Lions don't
concern
concern themselves with the opinion of sheep.
But you're
and I'm going to
right.
leave you guys at that. Make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll be right back after this break with Sara Poraria coming on the set to talk some footy. Welcome back to the Homestand Show, live on Homestand's YouTube channel. Please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We want to hit 3,000 by the end of the summer because I think there's a bet going on that I might be wearing a certain team's jersey.
When was that
air.
discussed?
What team? Oh,
I
the
think
Leafs?
we discussed it when you were on vacation.
Oh, probably.
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't know about this either.
No.
Is it a Leafs jersey?
Yes, so if we hit 3,000 before the NHL season starts, I will wear a Leafs jersey.
And if we don't?
And if we don't, then I don't have to do anything.
But so Albert's not like part of this.
No.
And besides, if we don't hit 3,000, we don't mention it.
No. If we don't hit 3,000,
Keep
just
that
forget
quiet.
this ever conversation ever happened. I will not be wearing a Maple Leafs jersey. But yeah, like, subscribe, follow us all on Twitter, on Instagram. I think we have a TikTok account too now. I think.
News to me.
Yeah,
as
check
well.
it out. Type in Homestand on TikTok, and if you find us, you'll find us. If we have an account, we have one. If we don't have one, we'll make one.
Yeah, and let us know.
Guys, you guys, of course, are the footy experts here. I'm kind of one. Back in like 2005 to 2006, that's my.
Really, what was your era like? Players,
You know,
teams?
like when Ronaldo had the greasy faux hawk with Manchester United.
Oh, yeah, when he first
and he
came
scored
over,
like
yeah.
50 goals that one year. That was the peak of my soccer knowledge. And then
what
I kind of I fell out of love with it.
Because of Ronaldo as well?
Because he went to Real Madrid, and I was a closet United fan for years, and then I could care less about Berbatov, Rooney,
Wow.
and whoever else
Whoa,
they had.
Jesus.
So you're not.
So, by the way,
you're
you see
a Ronaldo
Berbatov-
fan, not a United fan.
And then I started growing to like Messi.
You can't do that. You can't go
I
from Ronaldo to
flip-flopped.
Messi.
I flip-flopped. Look,
That's like being like a Canucks fan or a Seattle Kraken fan.
the rivalry's not there yet. But look, I think when you look at the landscape of soccer, I loved Thierry Henry when I first started watching.
Oh, now we got Henry dropping that one.
That
now.
was my
So,
favorite
okay.
guy. Then
So
I
you're
saw
Arsenal
Ronaldo,
fan.
and then I started growing my faux hawk out like Ronaldo for years. And then
Flip-flop
you know
Frank.
what? I realized that, you know what, Messi, this smaller guy named Leo Messi, might be the greatest soccer player of all time, and that's where I stand today.
So you just go with who's good and who's the best.
Yeah, I'm
He's
a
a
fan.
LeBron James
I'm,
fan.
I'm
Yeah,
a fan
right.
of the game. I'm a fan of the game, the beautiful game. That's what I'm a fan of.
Who's your favorite baseball player of all time?
Derek Jeter.
No, I'm a fan of what Derek Jeter did off the
Shohei
field.
Ohtani.
No. Who is my favorite baseball player of all time? I don't know. Barry
Lou
Bonds?
Gehrig.
Barry Bonds.
Okay, there you go.
Barry Bonds, my favorite baseball player of all time. But let's leave the debates about who my favorite soccer player was of all time for another day. Let's talk about some more important stuff. The Women's World Cup round of 16 is just around the corner. Some interesting matchups. Let's start off, though, first with the team that's on the quest for a three-peat. The U.S. women's national team drew 0-0 to Portugal today. Almost lost if it wasn't for a post. And then after the game, they had some interesting celebrations. Almost looked like they won. It felt like they won. And for a team that's been such the gold standard of women's football for years and years, to be celebrating a draw, to finish second in a group after they got off to such a strong start, beating up on Vietnam. James, a certain U.S. women's national team legend had some choice words for her former side post-match.
Yeah, Carney Lloyd, who's just recently retired, really. She went off on the broadcast when she saw this for the first time. She saw the celebrations, the selfies, the dancing on the pitch. And she goes, you put on that jersey and you want to give it everything you have for the people that come before you and the people that are going to come after you. And I'm just not seeing that passion. I'm just seeing a very lackluster and uninspiring, take it for granted, where winning and training and doing all that you can to be the best possible individual players is not happening. She goes, she's never seen this kind of behavior before. It's unacceptable. She kind of went off. I spoke to our friend Amy Walsh, a Canadian Hall of Famer, and she was saying there's nothing wrong with what they were doing. They just celebrated. They got through to the next group. I don't agree with Amy.
Yeah.
I don't like this kind of celebration. We saw it when they beat Thailand 13-0. Remember that, the last World Cup?
They
And they were celebrating,
Yeah.
every goal.
And in fairness, their response was, listen, God, we beat Thailand 13-0. We get in trouble for that, for celebrating. Now we win 0-0 and we advance, we get in trouble. They can't win is what they're saying. Mm-hmm. I don't like it myself.
Yeah.
It's not that big a deal, but still, 0-0 is not a great result.
No, it's not a great result, but are we shocked? The one thing with this American team is that they're super cocky, and they kind of can be because they've been so good for so long, but they've always had that attitude. Do you remember when they played England in the last World Cup? Alex Morgan,
The finger that's
you know, like they know how to get under your skin. They know that like these are the kind of things that they do. They're gonna celebrate. Listen, all credit to them, but they are going to the next round. They only won one game.
Yeah.
4 goals across 3 matches. It's not great for sure, but They got out of the group, so on to the next round. And that's how they have to look at it, I think.
I was going to ask you, Sarah. Now it looks like they're going to have to play against Sweden in the round of 16, which is no easy out for the U.S. Is the drive for 3 still? Are they still the favorites right now, do you think, for the title? Or, can they get got now?
I mean, I've seen a couple teams have better performances so far. But as we know in tournament football, there's good days and there's bad days. And, I mean, Colombia's really impressed me. They're
the dark horse.
They've played
one of the
Japan. Japan's my.
Are they a dark horse though? I mean, they got to 2 finals the last 10 years.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It's become there's so many good teams now competing. It's hard to say. I think Colombia is more so of a dark horse. You're right, but I've seen better football being played. But I think you can't put it past the Americans just yet.
I agree with you. I mean, listen, like you said, tournament football, you never want to peak early. We saw Argentina lose to Saudi Arabia in the men's World Cup. You want to just build slowly, get through the tough games like the Portuguese games, the games that can galvanize a team as well. So I'd be very concerned. I know the odds have dropped somewhat. It's plus 300 now for the States to win the World Cup. Up in England, who are plus 450 now, I think. So they're kind of changing. Japan's actually at plus 800. They're really kind of coming into their own. But yeah, I wouldn't take anything from the group phase. You never really can. I think the States would be just fine.
The group stage also, is so usually crazy and bonkers.
Yeah.
There's usually, we see a lot of goals. We saw, with Canada, we saw Japan beating Spain.
Bonkerinos?
Bonkerinos.
Don't say that word. Producer Sean said that in our ear right now.
That's Poraria
I never want to hear that being said on this show ever again while I'm the host.
I've not said that in a while.
I know, it's time. Well, the season's around the corner, right? The European season. So.
Do
you guys think that when you play, of course, in tournament football, that teams just kind of overlook their opponents, right? Like the U.S. knows that, look, when they got the draw for their group, okay, we can mail in this game, just push it a little bit here, then kind of coast the rest of the way, and we'll still be in the round of 16. Do you think teams actually think about that, or is it every game is a must-win thing?
I mean, I think every game is a must-win. These are professional athletes. You can't go into a game thinking that you're better than another team, even if
you're the States?
Stats are there.
You shouldn't, but I think it happens.
I think it does happen, but I don't think you should. I don't think it's professional whatsoever.
Well, we're seeing for this World Cup, we thought this World Cup we see these big blowout scores because there's 32 teams the first time. We haven't seen them. I mean, there's a 7-0 today, mind you, but generally speaking, they've been tight games, right? No team's really been embarrassed at this tournament. So maybe the States thought they could take care of a Portugal team enjoying its first ever World Cup, and there's been a wake-up call for them.
But also, you got to remember, teams are going to put everything they can against the United States because it is the United States. They are the gold standard. A team that is trying to win a World Cup in any sort of the realm, England, the Lionesses, they won 6-1 over China to finish out their group stage. They now face off against Nigeria, who of course surprised everybody coming out of the group that Canada was in with Australia. They will now face off in the round of 16. James, you are our resident Englishman, or whatever they call it. I should know this, but I don't. But what did you see from the Lionesses in the group stage in Canada? Because I have them going to the finals against the States. Do you think they're primed for a run to the finals?
Well, they hadn't been great up until this game against China, who once upon a time were a force in world football. But now there's no investment in the program, and it's falling to ruin, it seems. But they needed this performance, played really well. Lauren James is becoming the player to watch at this year's tournament.
2
goals, 3 assists, and she should have got a hat-trick. It was offside, but if you watch this, just give it a whirl on YouTube. It was a belter from about 25 yards out and didn't count, unfortunately, because of the offside. But she's been brilliant. 5 different goal scorers. Lauren Heaps got back in there as well. She hasn't been great so far, so she needed that goal. England look pretty good. They do. But I tell you what, Nigeria surprised us all in the group phase, how good they've become, and they are battlers. Have they left it all in the field, I wonder, in the group phase? Because they worked so hard, but that's going to be a tough one for England.
I think so too. I don't think this is going to be a blowout by any means. They're also fast, Nigeria. They have the pace behind them. When they get that ball in that third part of the pitch there, they take off. So I think it's going to be tough for England. I do think England will go through in the end, but I think this is going to be a lot tighter of a game. Well,
now the pressure is on. The round of 16 starts in the Women's World Cup. Before we transition to our final topic, let's talk about your Barcelona and PSG. French international Ousmane Dembélé is looking to go back to France potentially. He had a release clause in his deal with Barca that expired yesterday, and PSG was willing to pay the 50 million euros to just get him. But I think Dembélé said he would rather both sides work out an agreement for that's best for both sides. So, Sarah, what does this move do for Paris Saint-Germain, and what does it do for Barcelona?
Fills up their bench when he's injured for the whole season. Take him. I don't want him. I'm so sick of Dembele and his injuries. He's such a good player, but he's constantly injured. That if Barca can get money for him, and now I'm hearing they're going after Joao Cancelo, I will take that any day of the week. You can take Dembele, but yeah, I guess they now have a private clause is what they're saying, which is also equivalent to 50 million. But 50 million for Dembele in these days, absolutely not. No,
I'm with you. I mean, when he joined from Dortmund, it was a huge amount of money for a young player, and he'd been brilliant.
Yeah.
And he was the next big thing in world football, and then, like you said, just could not stay healthy. It's a real shame. So I think PSG are getting potentially a great player with Mbappe moving out. They need a wide player, albeit on the other side. But I'm with you. It's a big gamble because he hasn't shown in 3 or 4 years.
He moved from what in 2017?
Was it 17? Was it?
Was it 2017? He moved to Barca.
I think so.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, and just hasn't played enough football. But when he's healthy, he's great.
Yeah.
And I'm like Sarah, if you can get Joao Cancelo, who has been such a weird year for him last year. He was the best fullback in England, we thought. Yeah. Entering the season, fell out of Pep Guardiola, went to Bayern Munich. It did not work out there at all for him. So in there is a very good footballer. So good for Barcelona. They can get him with that money, but. Yeah, the verdict's out, I was saying Dembele for sure.
Do you know what it is? I also am wondering if Dembele just didn't fit with Barcelona properly. Sometimes we see players and it might just not be a good fit. And maybe he'll go to PSG and do really well and stay fit. And I'm happy for him if that's the case, because I think everyone involved right now is wasting their time.
At the same time, Cancelo didn't work out at Bayern Munich, and nor did Sadio Mane.
Yeah.
No, he didn't.
Who's moved
today.
to Al Nassr.
That was Al Hilal.
One of them.
One of the two.
It's Al Hilal. 30 million for Sadio Mane. Okay, who's making up these numbers? Surely Sadio Mane is a 60 plus.
Yeah, but this is
again,
he
coming
had
off
a
an
bad year.
injury-ravaged season. I think Bayern were just happy to get the wages off the books.
I guess so. I mean,
simple.
Arguably Liverpool's best player 2 years ago.
Here's a freebie too, don't forget, to Bayern as a free agent.
Speaking of your Liverpool, Mr. Virgil van Dijk seems to be the new skipper after Jordan Henderson skipped out of town to go. That was a good one, right?
Playing words there. Was that intentional or just?
No, I just came off the top of my head.
Nice.
You know, like I said, I beat to my own drum. What the hell it's called? Anyway, I got one last thing about PSG. They spent so much money in the last decade plus to try to finally become a European giant. Everybody talks about the French league as the Farmers League, and it's a second-class league in Europe, which very well might be. Can PSG finally ever get over the hump and do something big in Europe and win a Champions League?
I mean, if they hadn't done it with Messi and Mbappe and Neymar, you think they wouldn't be able to. But then there's that little voice in the back of my head that says, maybe getting rid of a bunch of superstars, maybe building a team properly and not just buying a bunch of players. But it doesn't really seem to be the case with them anyways. They're still kind of trying to buy pieces all over the place. And I think that's always been the issue for them. There's never been a glue.
A plan.
Oh, sure.
Outside of the Galactico plan, which doesn't work. Real Madrid tried it.
Yeah.
It worked.
It didn't
kind
to
of.
a certain degree, but not to the extent they wanted it to work, right?
Which Galacticos we talking about? The first one or the second?
The first one.
The first one,
The
yeah.
Beckham era Galacticos didn't work out, right? The Zidane era did.
Yeah.
Obviously. But yeah, I'm if they're smart and they get the right coach. I mean, now the coach leaves, another one comes in. There's no stability there whatsoever. They have the money. If they can invest in youth, in the academy, get the right glue guys in there, and sprinkle in the stars, and of course they can be a force in European football. They can afford these players. But when I see, the Mbappe rumors to Saudi Arabia and PSG getting so upset about it, I just laugh about that because, my God, pot calling the kettle black here a little bit.
Look, well, I will say this: PSG has the best kits and best merchandise across world football. Their Jordan collab, I have a bunch in my closet. So look, they might not be winning on the pitch, but off the pitch, they're making us all look good. Now, you know what's not looking good? The Edmonton Elks. I know we're not all big CFL people here, but the Edmonton Elks set a 70-year record after they lost to the BC Lions on the weekend. 0-21 at home.
That's
Imagine that.
insane.
Imagine being a fan of that team.
Imagine being a fan of that team. Look, that was a 70-year record held by a MLB team called, not the St. Louis Cardinals, the St. Louis Browns.
St. Louis
Look
Browns.
at all those L's at home. That's
Shouldn't laugh.
now that sparked
Oh
up a
my
conversation. we're not going to debate about why they're losing and why the Elks are.
I know you want Sarah's opinion on the CFL.
Do you have? I'd love to know her opinion on the CFL as
Can
to
you
why
name
the
all
Elks,
the teams?
the last three. Actually, yeah.
The Toronto Argonauts, the Montreal Alouettes, the Rough Riders.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. The Elks. There you go. I think that's as good. I know the other ones.
Half of them.
Yeah, well, that's
BC.
Lions.
Very good.
BC
Calgary.
Lions.
Flames. The Stampede.
Yay!
See,
They're
you know
getting
what?
there.
Where are they?
Hamilton.
Ticats.
There we go. You know what?
She's pretty good.
She got it. She nailed it.
So we ate
Now we're on the
teams.
same level of our CFL
So,
knowledge.
We're not gonna test anybody else's CFL knowledge because I think
Okay.
after the teams, it's not gonna be that much. But the question has to be asked. We're all sports fans. We all love certain teams, some more than others. Producer Sean, you can get involved in this convo too. What was one point of your sports fandom where you thought your team was just down so bad and it just ruined and demorally crushed you?
James is still living in it with England, not winning anything.
That was my answer.
I know. I knew it already. I knew it already.
You
Go
saw,
for
I
it.
was
you don't
50
remember
and I've never seen them win
1967?
anything.
Well, you were
Yeah.
around in 1967, weren't you?
Shut up. Not quite that old. I'm far off. But like, imagine not seeing your team win anything in 50 years. And not just that. I mean, we got to the final of Euro once. I've seen one final.
2020.
No,
96 didn't make the final.
The last one.
The last one. What didn't they make the final?
Semi-finals, 96.
Semi-final.
Didn't get to the
96.
finals. Germany again.
Southgate.
Penalties.
That's right.
Again.
Southgate.
Gareth Southgate.
Fumbled the bag once again.
Semis in the last World
Yep.
Cup.
So things are getting
Quarters in the
better.
last World Cup.
I think
Semis
I
in the
will
World Cup
see.
before that.
Yeah.
I think I
correct.
will see a trophy from England within my lifetime, and I think it could well be within the next.
It's
4 to 8 years.
it's now or never is how I'm looking at
might
it.
be.
This is the best the squad has been. If they can't do it anytime soon, I'd be scared.
And it's not just that, but it's how they lost in all these games.
Heartbreak.
Usually on penalty shootouts, right, or stupidity, young stars kicking out, getting red cards. It was never. They never lost well.
I remember
bad
that.
loss.
You remember? Again, going back to my younger days as a big soccer. Remember that one? Was it 06 World Cup where it was Portugal, England, and then was it who got the red card? Rooney got the red card.
The Rooney, yeah.
Yes, I remember that very well.
That was the Diego Simeone. No, Simeone was the Beckham one.
Yes.
The other one with
And there was
who was
who
Rooney?
did they lose in?
Ronaldo, the old wink.
Yes,
the wink,
yes.
that's
But
what
then
it was, yeah.
they didn't make what the 2012 Euro was it?
2000 and
Because they made 2016, lost
I think
to
it was
Iceland.
12. Yeah, whatever. But
2012
blew
Euro
one
they
of them.
didn't make.
They missed the '94 World Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, that's some pretty tough times for the Three Lions. I think they're still going to be a force to be reckoned with come 2026. What about you, Sarah? I know you say you're the biggest Barca fan. The last 15 years have been nothing but wonderful times. But
What 15 years are you looking at? The last 5 years of Barcelona have been shocking. In
You
fact,
won the league last year.
yeah,
we're doing this now. But Barca have been bad for a while.
okay. So what was the worst? What was the worst moment?
8-2 Bayern Munich. Absolutely can't not be.
That was
and
bad.
you know
That was very
that
bad.
was also bad because that also rolled us into the Ronald Koeman era, which was just pain. Like I've never not watched Barcelona and thought this is bad football because even when they lose, they're playing beautiful football. You know that tiki taka. This was bad football. Like,
Still
it was
finished
Some
top
guy named
3,
Ronald
didn't you?
Koeman managing.
yeah, but they
Barcelona
couldn't.
doesn't
We're
sound
still
right.
not competing in Europe. Like that's still like we're still. Let's see what happens this year. But that 8, I remember just like them giving like Piqué was just walking up the pitch at that point, just over it. It was such a thrashing, and you don't see 8-2 in football like frequently.
I mean, unless you're Brazil at home.
Or
in
a
the World
Canadian
Cup.
fan, 8-1 2012 against Honduras. That was
Respectfully,
another
I don't know
low
if,
point.
if very many people were watching that back in 2012. Producer Sean, let's hear yours.
Hey, thanks for asking for my opinion. Happy to provide my sadness for you guys.
We dwell in your sadness.
No,
Sean.
I mean, Justin says not a lot of people know about the CFL, and again, my CFL days are a bit behind me. But I mean, the Hamilton Tiger Cats not winning a Grey Cup since 1999 is very sad to me. You're like in an 8-team, 9-team league on occasion, and to not win in 24 years is pretty sad. Otherwise, the Denver Broncos not having only having one season above 500 in the last 6 years since they won the Super Bowl. No, since 2015.
Yeah, 2015 was the last time they won the
Yeah,
Super Bowl.
and then they have one season above 500 since
Doesn't
then,
count.
so haven't made the playoffs.
You've won the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of sadness, James. I mean, between the Jays and the Leafs and
Do you remember the
My
Jays
life
winning
in
the World
general.
Series? Do you remember?
no,
that?
I was I was 6.
Oh, you were 6.
Yeah.
I was drunk.
Yeah, no, I
Tell
could.
you everything.
You what?
Did no one bring up the Leafs between you and Sean?
I know. Well,
I just sort of mentioned them.
I think with the Leafs, though, Sean, it's
I
almost
wanted-
like the resignation.
You guys
like,
are numb
we're
to
just so
pain
used to
being
it.
Leaf fans.
I wanted to go a little
And
off the
England
board
fans.
because the Leafs it was just
doing with my life.
it was just too obvious. So
Well, I'm gonna stick with the obvious. Being a Canucks fan the last 10 years has been a living hell. Sucks, especially seeing a team like the Leafs do so well just in the regular season.
where
alone.
were you the night of the riot? Not that I
Where was I the night of the
Do you
riot?
wanna know?
I'll say it on camera.
I'm gonna.
Fuck it, I'll say it on camera. I was at home wearing my Roberto Luongo jersey, and when the
Right.
Canucks lost, I was what? 2011. I was what, in grade 9, so I was 14.
14 in grade
14. So I remember everybody kind of left. I was sitting with my family. Everybody kind of left the room, and I shut the door.
I just had a good old cry.
I cried
just
for
a
like
good old cry.
15 minutes. I just bawled my eyes out, and then I got up, and then I saw that the city was on fire. And quite frankly, that I'll never forget that. But nothing compares to being absolute shit for 10 years. And
When the Leafs lost, is it 93 to the Gretzky high stick?
Mhm.
I remember watching that, and I was at home watching that. And my grandfather had made this beautiful footstool for my mum years prior.
Yeah.
Right? It's a family heirloom. And I lifted it up and I smashed it. And to this day, I feel awful about it. Just terrible.
did you?
I
Did
admit
you
it and
try
I
to replace
apologize.
Could it
or-
be repaired? Or was it just...
It wasn't repaired.
Yeah,
No,
no,
it
it's
it splintered a little bit.
Oh, that's,
what?
That's
Let's
unfortunate.
have people in the comment sections too. Put it in the comment section about what your most down bad moment was for your favorite team. But I think that is all the time we have for today on the Homestand Show. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on all social media platforms. Follow us personally on all of our social media platforms. We'll be back tomorrow with the more stuff from the Homestand Show. And take care and be safe, be merry, whatever you want to do on a
Do you want
Tuesday.
to just wrap it up at any time soon?
Show's done. Show's done now. Show's over. Bye.